Good Tuesday morning. Welcome into Morning JOX. Damian Mitchell alongside John Saybear. Conrad out. Conrad Van Order out enjoying his 30th birthday. But we appreciate y'all hopping on with us this morning. 205-834-9450. Expected it to be a pretty interesting Tuesday. I guess today is Transfer Portal Tuesday because we got some names for both Alabama and Auburn, just trying to make some sense of where these guys are going, who's coming to your program. We got some news last night, over the day yesterday, that Alabama has made some changes. There will be some changes there in Tuscaloosa. Of course, we know Jalen Mbakwe, he ends up committing to Georgia Tech. Cam Calhoun, Keon Keeley, Wilkin Formby, Cole Adams, Micah Dubose, and others to say the least. But we got an interesting name yesterday as one of the defensive leaders, a guy that we had seen come into his own the past couple of seasons. But edge rusher Quay Russaw has officially hit the transfer portal. And when you think of the names that I've hit for Alabama, this one kind of throws you off a little bit. It's kind of one of those things where he was getting ample playing time, especially when he was healthy. He made plays when he was on the field, but now it's kind of, okay, well, is this just the nature of college football and where we're going? Could it be another Rico Scott situation where he's just almost testing the market to see what it may present? But 6'2", 243, the guy totaled 49 tackles, 2 sacks over his time there in Tuscaloosa. But I do think that this is kind of an interesting name to say the least, and I'll be interested to see where he goes from here. But you ended up getting someone out of the transfer portal. Hollywood Smothers, NC State running back, 5'11", 195. If you've seen NC State, one, you got another track record. Casey Concepcion played there a couple seasons ago. He ends up taking his talents to Texas A&M and immediate impact. Hollywood Smothers, a guy that's a little bit smaller, but he's kind of the Winn-Dixie version of Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, he's going out of business?
No,
he's turning into something else? Like Aldi?
Pretty much.
Okay.
He's a little bit different. He's a smaller guy, but he packs a lot of explosion. I do think when you look at what Alabama's Achilles heel offensively was finding ways to create explosives in the run game. But I think Hollywood Smothers and what he's been able to do in his career at NC State, really and truly, you just got to get the ball around him, because there were times where if you got a chance to watch, I think it was a Thursday night game against Wake Forest. He exploded on the scene. I think he had over 100 yards total offense, and he made plays up and down the field. So if you're looking at that running back room, of course, with Richard Young hitting the portal, and you have Keywan Riley coming back, Jam Miller, I think his time there is done in Tuscaloosa. When you look at that running back room of trying to at least have something to look forward to in 2026, I do think this is a great grab. I do think that if you can find ways, again, he's one of the smaller backs. He has a lot of explosiveness. If you could just find different ways to get him the ball, I think you can see his playmaking ability. But I'm interested to see what it does look like, because I do think the biggest question mark is going to be your offensive line, and 6 of the 7 starters that you had going into this past season or played last season, they're either in the portal, have draft eligibility, or they're done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be unique collective how it's going to be for Alabama. Now on the Auburn side of things, new head coach Alex Golesh has really made it a point that he believes in his guys that were in South Florida. Because if you look at the roster and where it's trending towards in the transfer portal, a lot of guys from South Florida are making that jump to Auburn. We got commitments from Jeremiah Coger, 6'3", 209-pound receiver, has committed to Auburn. Gavin Jenkins, a 6'2", 181-pound corner, has committed from South Florida to the Auburn Tigers, joining his head coach. You got Jonathan Eccles, a tight end, 6'6", 235, going to Auburn. Nakai Davenport, running back, 6 foot 216, also committed to Auburn, coming from USF. I think the big names that people are looking for, of course, where's Byron Brown going? Where's Singleton going? The receiver for South Florida, which all roads kind of lead toward Auburn, but nothing has been officially stated. there on the Plains. But it'll be interesting to see what Alex Golesh is continuing to build there at Auburn. But we do have some notable names from Auburn that have committed to other places. And some are a little bit closer to home because some are staying in the SEC. Of course, we know Jay Crawford, defensive back corner from Auburn, now has committed to Ole Miss, so he's going to stay in the conference. But also announced yesterday, Robert Woodyard, a guy that made some plays and really burst on the scene this past season, linebacker for Auburn, 6 foot, 245 pound. He announces that he will be going to Missouri. So okay. Missouri, who was a top 5 SEC defense last year, you're getting a little bit of help, Robert Woodyard, because we do know his impact as far as, being able to play in space, and really showed up in a lot of big moments for Auburn. And now he's going to take his talents to Columbia, Missouri. Also, another commitment from the receiver room. Now, it's not who you think it is, because Cam Coleman, his price tag's a little bit heavier than one Perry Thompson, but Perry Thompson has announced that he has made his plans. He has made his decision to go to the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Oh, okay. I mean, maybe, look, some people like vacation at the beach. Some people like going to frozen mountain cabins.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, PJ Fleck, an amazing coach. I'm not going to sit here and say I know their offensive identity, but you're getting a talented player. Maybe he never reached the potential that we expected him to coming out of Foley, Alabama. But 6'3", 220, they ain't just falling out of trees. Like, you don't get that size receiver just anywhere, but you definitely get in the transfer portal. But I do think that, Hugh Freeze, when he was the head coach at Auburn, you heard Perry Thompson's name especially as a freshman when he came in. Of course, we knew the Freeze 5 with, Cam Coleman, Bryce Kane, and all those guys, Malcolm Simmons and others. It was, okay, he looks the part. He definitely does. But he had those freshman lumps where the playbook wasn't necessarily clicking all the way. And then last season, amongst all the hoopla, I guess you would say, as far as an offensive identity, he was on the field, but his impact wasn't as great as you expected. And I think that it was just time for a clean slate. And I don't think nothing gets much cleaner than, taking a trip up north to play in Minnesota, where, again, PJ Fleck, no disrespect, he is one of the better coaches in college football. His name is usually up for grabs as far as coaching vacancies. His name is usually thrown around. But this will definitely be a culture shock. As somebody that was born and raised here in the state of Alabama, taking that trip all the way up there, it's definitely going to be a little
Maybe
different.
He's a Rashad Bateman fan and thinks, you know what, that guy got to the league. I'm going to do what he did.
True. And Rashad Bateman also landed himself a nice contract in the NFL.
Right, see? It can be done.
Yeah, the return on investment for the Baltimore Ravens may be a little different. But, again, so the portal for South Florida to Auburn is definitely open. Of course, Christian Neptune, 5'11", 189-pound receiver. Corey Pettigrew, 6'1", 180, both played at South Florida, taking the trip up to the Plains. And actually one that's flip-flopping, a guy that played at Auburn for the past couple seasons, Amon Lane Gaines, a cornerback, 5'10", 180 pounds, is now going to South Florida. So Brian Hartline getting some SEC talent there. And again, he didn't play much, but he is an SEC talent to say the least. And also Lachlan Lewitt, who was the backup quarterback for South Florida, announced that he will be going to Auburn to join Alex Golesh as well. But something I want to get to a little bit later in the show, I guess I want to get some listener interaction, because I think this conversation was very fun on Mac and Cube yesterday. And I stewed on it all night. In the event, and just hear me out, that's all I'm asking. We had a discussion on Mac and Cube of transferring to your rival, and how, Greg and Cole, they basically said, nope, there are schools that even if they called my phone, I wouldn't answer. Cole said he would never play at Alabama. Greg said he'd never play at Auburn, also Tennessee and LSU. But in the event that you are an Auburn fan or you an Alabama fan, and you could get one guy out of the portal, they don't have to be in the portal right now, but if you had somebody on your opposing rival's roster that you could take, who would it be? And I'm only talking about for last year. You know what? Well, because I think a lot of people gonna say, of course, Bo Jackson, names
Right,
like
right,
that,
yeah.
Cam Newton.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just basing off of 2025.
Current roster. Well,
current,
mostly current roster.
mostly current roster. If there's one guy from your rival that you wouldn't be opposed being on your own, who would that player be? And me as an Ole Miss fan, I started looking at Mississippi State's roster, and I was like, well, that ain't really anybody I would take. But I did come up with a name because I started looking at, okay, for Ole Miss, you look at the pieces that they have offensively. What if you could add a Fluff Bothwell, a 100% healthy Fluff Bothwell paired up with Keywan Lacey in the backfield? Now, not to say that Logan Diggs isn't a decent running back, but you pair him up and that 1-2 punch of Keywan Lacey and Fluff Bothwell from Mississippi State, he wants to take the trip to Oxford, I would accept it. I think that if Trinidad Chambliss if he was a betting man, he'd say, you know what? I don't have to throw the ball 30 times. We can just hand it off. Offensive line, give them a crease. They will do the rest. But I think that would be an interesting discussion that we can continue on throughout the day. 205-834-9450. Because, again, there are talented players on both sides, on both Alabama and Auburn. So if you're an Auburn fan and you're looking at Alabama's roster, now if we'd had this conversation last year, everybody would be like, Ryan Williams, sign me up.
Yeah,
give me Ryan
hard,
Williams.
Yeah.
But now when you look at the roster, again, a team that made it to the college football playoff, won on the road in the first round of the college football playoffs. So you know the talent is there, / was there. But is there anybody on that roster that you would take? And it's the same way for Alabama. If you look at Auburn, you won the Iron Bowl. You know the talent that is there because it was a competitive matchup. Is there a player that you could probably say, you know what? If he wants to wear the crimson and white, bring him on. And I think for Auburn, if you're an Alabama fan, you're looking at the Auburn roster, a lot of it is, well, the players that I wanted, they're already in the transfer portal now. Because I do think, Eric Singleton, if you look at the receiver room, for as inconsistent as you got from Ryan Williams, you add an Eric Singleton to that roster. You have Lotzier Brooks. You add Eric Singleton. Of course, you still have Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. Maybe Ty Simpson has a couple more completions game to game because of the fact that, hey, I can just put it somewhere around there and they can go out there and ball. But also, if you had to go tit for tat, Cam Coleman. At the time during 2025, the big debate of, Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams, both of them really kind of didn't necessarily live up to expectations in 2025, whether that is by offensive design, whether that's having the case of the yips, and if you're Ryan Williams. But if you were to look at the opposing team's roster, your rival's roster, and you could take somebody, well, you think about this. DJ Lagway played at Florida last year. He just got done with a visit at Florida State.
So he may be living this full life. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I do think it's an interesting discussion. Or you could just say, you know what? Nope, I love my team. I don't want anybody from the rival team to even step foot on campus. I don't necessarily think that would be the right move. But if you're just looking at as far as talent-wise, who would it be? 205-834-9450. To keep the conversation going, also keep you up on the FCS championship game last night. A sneaky good championship game. Want to break it down with you on the other side. Keep it locked here on Morning JOX. 6:18 here on Morning Jocks. Damian Mitchell, John Saybear here with you. Conrad out enjoying his 30th birthday. Hope he had a wonderful day yesterday. Keep 30 warm for me, brother. But we also had some interesting college football last night. The FCS championship. The Illinois State Redbirds taking on the Montana State Bobcats. And it was, if you didn't watch the entire game, it was a little sloppy at moments. But that fourth quarter, Illinois State was down 28-14 going into the fourth. They stacked two drives together late in that ball game to tie it up. They go into overtime. Illinois State scores first. They get the ball first, scores first. And the Montana State Bobcats block the field goal. And Montana State, they drive. They get to a fourth down.
Fourth and 10.
Yeah, 4th and 10 after timeout. So it was essentially win or lose the game on that play. Well, tie the game on that play. And Montana State quarterback Justin Lamson, he hits Taco Dowler on a corner route. They score. Montana State kicks the extra point, and it is right down the middle, and it's good. Montana State takes the FCS championship 35-34. And I'm telling you, it was an exciting ball game. And I think that, one, to have their championship on a Monday night where all eyes are on them, the focus is on them, no football, no NFL, nothing, besides transfer portal news to really interrupt an exciting ball game. But it kind of continues the trend that we saw. It followed from Sunday night football with the Steelers and Ravens. And, man, this is what happens. The kickers, man, when their numbers called, stuff like that happens. Now, I will say Illinois State, they were having some issues with the snap, getting it down the hole, spinning of the ball, and Montana State was able to block it, especially on an extra point. But to the play that they had on that fourth down, I mean, this is what you heard the head coach after the game. Like, this is what players do. This is, players make the plays. And there was a great play call, great play design, and Montana State, they end up taking the FCS championship 14-2 this season. The Illinois State Redbirds 12-5, but still found a way to find themselves in the championship game, and it all came down to the final play. But we had a conversation just dealing with the transfer portal because of how active it is. You see the money that's being thrown around and guys changing scenery. Of course, Alabama, Quay Russaw, their edge rusher, hits the transfer portal, but they also receive NC State running back Hollywood Smothers. Hollywood Smothers, just to put it in perspective, last season had 1,128 total yards and 7 touchdowns. So, again, if he's Jahmyr Gibbs, if you ain't got Jahmyr Gibbs money right now, like, it's kind of, we want Jahmyr Gibbs. We would like to have a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, but we ain't got the money like that anymore. But I do think that he will have an impact as soon as he gets to Tuscaloosa. And again, with all the issues that you had running the football, a guy that's smaller in stature but really a firecracker, and you just put the ball in his hands and plays genuinely happen. Of course, with Auburn, pretty much overhaul in South Florida, still waiting on Bryce Brown. Also, Singleton there, Keyshawn Singleton, the receiver, to announce that they will be taking their talents on the Plains. But again, anything could happen with all this money that's being thrown around. I mean, Brendan Sorsby got $5 million to be the quarterback at Texas Tech, former Cincinnati quarterback. Now, you are worth however much they're willing to pay you. And with Texas Tech, they showed you this past season, the check is going to clear. You look at that defense and what they were able to do, and as soon as that playoff game happened with Oregon and you didn't put up any points, they knew exactly where they needed to go, and that was the quarterback position. Now, again, is Brendan Sorsby worth $5 million? That is not my decision. But again, if you got it, more power to you, my brother. We shall see what it looks like in the Big 12. So we had a discussion on Mac and Cube yesterday of, with the transfer portal, the way that it is, you see a lot of guys transferring to rivals, and both Greg and Cole, just scowled at the fact that, hey, if we had a discussion back when you were playing, if you could hit the transfer portal, would you go play for your rivals? And both of them said absolutely not. But we had a discussion this morning of it again. just looking at the surface, I'm not saying that you could just be fine with your roster that you have. But if you could get somebody from your rival's roster to join yours, who would it be? And we've gotten some action here on the JOX text line, 205-834-9450. Caleb from Birmingham, he texted and he says, Keldrick Faulk. Absolutely. I put it like this. I don't think there is a team in college football that would not accept Keldrick Faulk being on your roster. Auburn fans, you were lucky to have him. You're blessed to have him. But also, if you're an Alabama fan, had he been on your defensive side, yeah, he maybe cover up a lot of things as far as your defensive line and some of the inconsistencies that you had. Somebody else takes in, imagine Alabama with Keldrick Faulk or Keyron Crawford, especially Keyron Crawford, who really blew up on the scene, who had moments in 2024, but really stepped his game up in 2025. Don, our resident Auburn fan, he says, as an Auburn fan, if I had a choice of Alabama players, it would be Jeremy Bernard on offense and Tim Keenum on defense. And I do think that Tim Keenum he'd be very impactful, especially with your interior defensive line. Not to say, some of the guys for Auburn didn't necessarily play up to par, but having a guy like that, Tim Keenum, who has played a lot of football, and just his pure size there on the defensive line, I think would have been interesting. Somebody else takes in going about the Brendan Sorsby discussion. He says Texas Tech blanked it up for everyone paying quarterbacks.
I think the NFL did that, but okay.
Yeah, I think it just leaked into the college football game now with NIL. But again, $5 million. And I heard Pat Smith yesterday on Three-Man Front say, it's talking about Shadur Sanders. Shadur Sanders, I think sign-in bonus is only like 4.3. And that's over, I think, 4 or 5 years. Brendan Sorsby's making that in one.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, the money's different down there in Texas, to say the least. Continuing on the conversation, Caleb also texting and says, Jeremiah Cobb, the running back for Auburn, if he was on Alabama's roster, wouldn't be opposed. Somebody said if Ty Simpson would have won the Heisman if he would have played at Auburn.
The academic Heisman?
I think he's talking about the same one Fernando Mendoza just won.
Okay.
Listen, I like Ty Simpson. I think he's a pretty decent to good, at times a great quarterback. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't necessarily say he wins the Heisman, but I do think you have stability in that quarterback room. Now think about this. And again, we're just playing hypotheticals, since I know that's not Nick Saban's favorite. But say Ty Simpson was at Auburn this past season in 2025. Does that mean Hugh Freeze stays? If Ty Simpson wins the Heisman in 2025?
I don't know. Would he have gotten tired of being thrown under the bus for all his mistakes? Right. I'm pretty sure that would have happened if Hugh Freeze was there too. So I don't know.
Right. Would Ty Simpson been able to shoulder all that blame if, he goes out there and throws for 300, but he has 2 interceptions, but you still win the ball game? It needs to get better. But I do think you find some stability in that quarterback room. And again, we're just playing the hypothetical game of just almost at this point saying something nice about your rivals. In the transfer portal, as crazy as it is, we've seen guys, again, going back to DJ Lagway taking a visit to Florida State. And speaking of Florida State, all signs, Matt Zenitz on Twitter, he reports that former Stanford, former Auburn quarterback Ashton Daniels is expected to commit to Florida State. Now, he had moments when he was at Auburn. Now you're pairing him up with Gus Malzahn. And again, Tommy Castellanos surprised me because, again, the first week of the season when he runs up and down the field on Alabama, it's, okay, this return on investment may actually be okay. But Ashton Daniels, who's kind of played a lot of football, and again, no offense to him, but I don't know if I just don't think that's an ideal fit right off the jump. Like, I don't necessarily think you blossom as a quarterback under Gus Malzahn and Mike Norvell. And again, DJ Uiagalelei went down there, and it wasn't like he was chopped liver when he got there, but he also wasn't ideal.
Was he?
I'll put it like this. That one game against Notre Dame when he threw for 400, everybody's like, yes, he's got it. Then he followed up. He's the starter at Clemson. It's, oh, he ain't got it. He goes to Oregon State. It's, okay, well, we're not asking you to have it. And then he goes to Florida State, and it's, oh, okay, yeah, you just weren't that good. Anyway. But not to say that Ashton Daniels, and again, maybe the resurgence at Auburn last year kind of gives him a little bit of confidence. He's played a lot of talent, played against a lot of talent in the SEC. So maybe just a change of scenery. But I do think that, one, for as much pressure as Florida State is under to correct the mistakes that they've had the past couple seasons under Mike Norvell, I think that it could be it'd be interesting. You got to see what the pieces that you have around you that would probably elevate. Drake, our resident Florida fan, he says he doesn't want anybody from Florida State, which I get.
Understandable, right?
Yeah, because when you look at the talent pound for pound, you actually have had the better roster in 2025. And again, John Sumrall, first year down in the swamp, could be interesting to see. But I do think that with the transfer portal the way that it is, it's never out the realm of possibility that you see guys, And again, understand football side of things, it's a little bit different. But basketball, we've seen Aiden Holloway in this state go from Auburn to Alabama. And every time that he's down in the jungle and he touches the basketball, he is always reminded that he left the Auburn Tigers to play for Nate Oates and the Alabama Crimson Tide. So again, I look at it from this perspective. You can say positive things about your rival. And again, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I said I would take Fluff Bothwell in a heartbeat. Because again, I do know talent-wise, Ole Miss is stacked in a lot of positions. But not to say that Mississippi State isn't there. Because again, Blake Shapen, quarterback situation is fine. And when you look at the receivers, you can add a Brennan Thompson, but where does he fit in the receiver room with all the guys that Ole Miss already has? There's only one ball. Like, we can't go 5 wide all the time. But I do think that if I look for overall just straight impact as soon as he would get there, having a 1-2 punch with Keywan Lacey and also Fluff Bothwell, that would be absolutely dangerous. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Get to your text message, your calls, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked here on Morning JOX. 6:35 here on Morning Jocks. Damian and John here with you. On this transfer portal Tuesday, as of course we got news for both Alabama and Auburn, some guys hitting the portal, finding new homes, and also guys coming into the programs. Hollywood Smothers, NC State running back, announced that he has committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide, so expected to see what he can do on the field. Quay Russaw, of course, the edge rusher for Alabama, announced that he will be hitting the transfer portal. Former Auburn receiver Perry Thompson announced that he is committed to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Robert Woodyard, former linebacker for the Tigers, announced that he will be playing for another set of Tigers in the Missouri Tigers in Columbia next season. 205-834-9450. I've been having some fun with the discussion that we had on Mac and Cube yesterday about transferring to your rivals. And I asked the question that if you had somebody on your rival's roster that you could have on yours, who would that player be? Steven texted in and says, as an LSU fan, I would take Caden Proctor because we needed help on that offensive line. Yeah. I think if you had 5 Caden Proctors, it would help, but I don't know if just one.
Probably not.
No. It would be able to make that difference. Bobby texted in and says, the only thing I ask in the portal is for an O-line and a quarterback that can help us win games at LSU. I don't care what school they come from, or they came from, as long as you can play. I think that's what Lane Kiffin's looking for too. He had it.
Maybe
he had it. I don't want to make it personal, but he had it already at Ole Miss, but he decided to go on to
obviously he didn't
to greener pastures.
He didn't have it. He had to go.
Yeah, joke's on him. Look at him watching us in the college football playoffs, which are coming up these next couple days. Thursday, Ole Miss taking on Miami.
Also wouldn't have been there without him, but okay.
That is true. Yeah, he built it. He built it. Hey, and what they say, leave places better than you found it. He definitely did that. A lot of credit goes to him for that, but it's just the way he went about it. I just, it burns me up. But listen, it's the Pete Golden era. And he is our head coach right now, and it will be in the future as we continue on in the college football playoff this season and also in 2026. And also, it announced that Trinidad Chambliss has re-signed to Ole Miss if the waiver clears for another year of eligibility. So he had a graphic that was made for it, so it's official that in the event the NCAA clears him, he will be returning to Oxford, Mississippi.
Okay.
Now, if the NCAA doesn't clear him, it's...
Yeah, I was going to the league anyway.
Yeah, right. Okay. It's like, okay. Well, thanks. Like, at least we have the reassurance. At least he didn't do what Lane Kiffin was and kick the can down the road. It's like, I may be back. No, he announced that he would be back in the event that the NCAA does clear him for another year of eligibility. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes for that. So let's continue on the phone lines. 205-834-9450. Robert in Pelham wants to talk with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Robert?
Hey, good morning, Damian. As a former Chilton County Peach Head from Jemison High School that graduated way before you did from Maplesville when Varsity Blues was football, it doesn't matter how much money you pay a quarterback. If you stand your butt up and you try to block a defensive lineman that's got a lower center of gravity, you're going to get blown back every time. You're never going to be able to get a ball in the end zone. I mean, case in point, Alabama flying 3,000 miles to kick a field goal. That's all I got to say.
We appreciate it, Robert. Yeah, I mean, listen, I understand, and I'm right there with you. I think that when you break down just the totality of it all, and Cole brings up a great point when he discusses offensive line play, because the changing nature of college football and with the transfer portal and things, your roster is different essentially year after year after year. You can't have that continuity of guys, especially from tackle to tackle, that have played together for 2 to 3 years where they can have the nonverbal communication and be able to just tap, like, hey, watch that shade, watch that nose. And you lose a lot of that because a lot of these guys now are just, you have the cherry pick. It's, I want to play here. I think I fit here in this system. I'm going to go play in that system where You basically have one full season to get it together. And that's why you see these defensive coordinators, they're able to dial up a lot of things and living and dying with the results because it's, oh, these guys haven't had the continuity that they've had in years past where we're not playing. You can say it's a veteran group, but somebody may be a fifth-year senior coming from, Ohio playing at Ohio State now. You're seeing a junior that's been in the program for 3 years, but may have 3 different head coaches since he's been there, or 3 different offensive line coaches that he's been there. So I think a lot of what we're seeing as far as the trench play is kind of just the result of just where we are in college football. Whereas receivers and running backs and skill positions, you're based so much on your athleticism that you can really just call a play. These are the expectations. This is where I want this route depth to be. This is where I need it to be, and just kind of plug and play. Yeah, the reps, you get better with it because you have, those practice days that you have with it. But in offensive line play, it's more fundamental. Like, you have to be in full pads. You've got to be able to see it. You got to be able to recognize it. And also, you have to have that camaraderie of, hey, man, we've been doing this for so long. When you see this certain front, I ain't even got to mention it to you. Like, you know exactly what we're picking up. And I think that it's difficult. Like, it's just difficult of how we are as far as college football, that you can't find that consistency year after year. Now, you see teams like in Indiana when they find the identity of, hey, we're going to be able to run the football. And any coach will tell you, like, running and tackling, blocking and tackling are 2 fundamental things that you have to have. You have to be good at to be successful in playing the game. You got to be able to block and you've got to be able to tackle. And I think now with the way the game is, because it's so spread out, you get so lost in the glitz and the glamour of, oh, we need the explosive plays. We need the big plays here and there. But really, when it comes down to it, it's what happens between the tackles that can make or break you. Think about it. Think of, again, I hate to harbor on this point, but it is what it is. Think of the years that Nick Saban was at Alabama and the offensive linemen that were being put out, and defensive linemen. Like, the trenches were the number 1 spot. Now, you saw, of course, the Minka Fitzpatricks, the Eddie Jacksons of the world on the defensive backfield, and, of course, the linebackers for years past. But really and truly, especially on the offensive side, Alabama was able to run the football. There was no ands, ifs, or buts about it. When it became a 4-minute drill, when you had to kind of ice the game, there was no issue with Alabama lining up in the single back or the I formation saying, you know what, we are about to run this football, we're about to chew this clock, and there is nothing the defense can do to stop it. And really and truly, you look at Auburn, they were built like that for a long time. And even in the Gus Malzahn era, the hurry-up, no-huddle era, they still made an emphasis to run the football. Cam Petway, who, and again, no disrespect, but when you look at the long list of 1,000-yard rushers that Auburn has had over the years, nobody expected Cam Petway to be that guy. But Gus Malzahn, his system was, we are going to run the buck sweep left, right. We're going to run power. We're going to run counter until somebody can stop us. And there were years that it looked flawless, no matter who was at quarterback. Now, it also helped when he had a running threat at quarterback as well, but the trenches is where it was at. And even Auburn was doing this without the caliber of offensive linemen that you would think that would go out and win, 13, 14 games, 10 games here and there, and be competitive. Is because they were able to run the football. And when it comes down to it, you've got to be able to establish the run game because it opens up everything else. And I'm saying this as a former receiver. Like, I love getting the ball in my hands. But there are moments where I got to know, I understand that, hey, we are about to ice this game. We're up by 7, we're up by 8, and we're 3 minutes or less in the ball game. I know I'm not going to be getting the ball unless it's third and long. But other than that, we are going to be running this football. That is exactly what we need to do. And I think a lot of teams kind of, I'm not going to say have lost that, but they get so caught up in the glitz and the glamour of, oh, we need to spread this thing around. Think of Brian Kelly's time at LSU. Yes, we know he had the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. He had Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., all those guys. But we saw this past season and last season his defiance in running the football. Because we never had this conversation when Les Miles was there. He was running Leonard Fournette into the absolute ground.
Almost to his detriment, Les Miles would run the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we've gotten to the point where, man, the one thing that LSU has to get back to is the commitment to running the football. And we had a lot of fun on Mac and Cube over the offseason of like, you got to be committed to this thing. You got to marry the run game. You can't date it. You can't flirt with it. You can flirt with the pass game. You can. It can kind of hit or miss. Like, you may have one game where you throw for 300, then the next game you're throwing for a $150. As long as you win the ball game, it is what it is, because there are so many things that factor into it. Think of Texas A&M and Miami in the college football playoff, where both quarterbacks, they had to account for the wind. They had to account for, like, position on the field. Like, hey, I won't be able to throw this 50-yard bomb because the wind is blowing, east to west. I don't know where this ball is going to land. I got to throw it in the middle of the field and hope the wind takes it to the sideline. But what doesn't affect that? Being able to run tackle in between the tackles. And that's where Miami was able to have success with Mark Fletcher Jr., and that's why they find themselves in this position that they're in, taking on Ole Miss in the college football playoff. And also the way that Indiana has been able to run the football effectively in the RPO game, and having such a smart guy at the quarterback position, Fernando Mendoza, you've been able to have success. Who would have thought at 6:46 in the morning that a former receiver would be out here talking about marrying the run, going to the run game, and being committed to it? It's crazy.
But you know how important it is. It sets you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, again, those play actions, when we've been able to run, 7 yards here, 8 yards there, 5 yards in a cloud of dust right here, and the one time we get that play action and I'm over the top, oh my gosh. Give me Greg McElroy throwing me over the top. Give it to me, man. I'm here for it. But you got to be able to go back to it. All that to say, and this came from a text message that somebody wanted Caden Proctor in the transfer portal as a rival. Never would have thought they would get an offensive lineman being brought into it, but this is what we are. I'm telling you, it is the meat and potatoes of what makes a college football team successful, and that's the trenches. We'll continue the conversation on the other side. Get to your text messages, 205-834-9450. Keep it locked here on Morning JOX. 6:51 here on Morning Jocks. Damian and John here with you for a few more moments as we get you set for McElroy and Kubelik in the morning, coming up at the top of the hour. Let me tell you about our friends at Hometown Roofing and Restorations. Trust the experts for your roofing needs. With over 1,200 roofers in the Birmingham area, make sure you call someone that you can trust. Hometown Roofers is family-owned, grounded in faith, and community-oriented. Their customer satisfaction focuses with your needs in mind, so you can count on honest communication. The goal is to get it right the first time. Even if it's an insurance claim, call Hometown and they'll take the ball for you, so you won't have to worry about the red tape and all the back and forth with the insurance company. Only top quality materials. Hometown is certified with the 2 best national brands of shingle, and they offer lifetime materials and warranty. Financing is available. If you got an aging roof or sign of roof damage, call Hometown Roofers for free inspections. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. Hometown Roofing and Restorations can handle siding, windows, gutters, and minor remodels as well. Give them a call at 984-4777 or htroofers.com. That's 205-984-4777 or htroofers.com. Hometown Roofing and Restorations. Do it right the first time. 205-834-9450. Going back to the discussion of transfer portal, and if you had, again, going back to the conversation that Mac and Cube had yesterday of transferring to your rival, if there was one guy that you could have from your rival, who would that be? And somebody texted in, and I saw this circulating a little bit yesterday. I don't personally know how much there's in for it, but somebody asked about Ty Simpson and the possibility of him transferring to Tennessee. I don't know anything about it. I'm thinking if you're Ty Simpson, I would much rather test my waters in the NFL. But if you pair it with Josh Heupel, I ain't going to be mad at you. I'm not going to be upset with you. Now, everybody else here in Tuscaloosa may be, they may be a little sideways about it. But again, his dad is the head coach of Tennessee Martin. Been there for a long time. He's a Tennessee guy. I'm not saying it isn't out the realm of possibility. I just don't think that would be necessarily the smartest of moves. But, and again, I love Josh Heupel. I'm a Heupel disciple. I rock with him. But if I'm Ty Simpson, I'm thinking more of, the Los Angeles Rams may be drafting 27, 28. I'm looked at as a late first round, maybe early second round pick. Somebody's got to replace Matthew Stafford. I'm just saying.
If you're him, I do think that I go because you're probably not going to be the first quarterback taken.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. You don't want to be the second one taken because it'll probably be the Jets. So you don't want to be second. And right now, I think Mel Kiper and a couple other have him as third. So, that's probably a good place to be.
Right. Like you're in that sweet spot where nobody's expecting you to go into the NFL and start immediately. But all I'm saying is, unless you are the Tennessee Titans quarterback, I don't know if the Tennessee Volunteers is the spot to be. But again, I haven't read anything of significance that could possibly happen. When we talk about the transfer portal to your rivals, who knows? And
speaking of the college football playoff, Heather Dinich is, I guess, reporting what I guess we already knew, but cool that the Ole Miss staffers from LSU that stayed behind, they're being allowed to coach in the game. So
except for one.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't left behind. He left. Yeah.
He left us behind.
Yeah. But Charlie Weiss Jr. and a couple others will be coaching Ole Miss in their upcoming game.
Man, who would have thought? And somebody brought up a great point. That's why Brian Harsin and Hugh Freeze ain't head coaches, because they had Tank and Jarquez Hunter, but wouldn't commit to running the football with them. Trust me, there is some back pay that Hugh Freeze owes Jarquez Hunter. He had the best running back in the SEC and chose not to give him the ball, depending on Peyton Thorne. Ugh, makes me sick. Mac and Cube is next.